Hi, welcome to El Podcast Maneaco. My name is Yugi Baldo, and today is a really special episode to me because I finally have the chance to introduce you to a person I think has a big impact in the community. And I don't know, before going any further, for any of you that do not have the pleasure to know this lady, um, today with me, Nancy Alvarado. Nancy, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, it's a pleasure to finally have you here. Um, I've been knowing you like for like 2 years, maybe a little more,
A little
right?
more, I
A
think.
little,
Two or
little
three.
more. And in a matter of months, I went from working with you in one organization to now working in two, and many adventures more. But you know, it's a pleasure to have you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So you drive all the way down from
San Diego.
San Diego, right? Okay. So one thing I do whenever I have a guest on my podcast, I tell them, listen, for anybody that doesn't have the pleasure to know you, if you could please introduce yourself with telling me your name, where are you from, what you doing.
Okay. So, I'm Nancy Alvarado. In my real life, I'm a fifth grade teacher.
In my real
In my
life.
real life.
Okay.
On my resume, I'm a fifth grade teacher. I live in San Diego. I'm the mom of a number of adult children, depending on how you count. And as a hobby, I guess my fun life is Baja Bound and Baja Ed, which you're both familiar with. You're familiar with both.
Which have been like around 20 years now, kind of.
I think I've been involved with Baja Bound for 15 years and Baja Ed, gosh, I mean, since about 2016 informally before we formalized the association. So,
Okay, so thinking about what to ask you, I was like, listen, I know if we talk only about, Bahia,
right.
we can like,
And you've already had Selene and Laura, so
Yeah.
people have an idea of that.
yeah, we can be like for
Right.
hours. And if I ask about Bahamount, it'll be the same. If I
Right.
ask about your work
Uh-huh.
and whatever you have done way before, Bahamount, Bahia, and everything. So it could be like really long episode.
Right.
Right. So, I guess we can have like a little questions in general about yourself. But if you want to talk about Bajaban, I think
It'll end up in there, but yes, but as
because
peripherally.
I will. You do poetry. You're a writer.
Right.
You are the crazy gringa coming every single weekend to the town, bringing clothes and food and
Right.
everything to the town here in Maneadero. So I guess the question is, like, since this podcast is about people in Maneadero.
Oh, right. Okay. So you have
yes.
to focus on the Maneadero part.
Yeah, Maneadero part.
But the part of me that's in Maneadero, like how many kids do I have? Well, it depends on how you
yeah,
count.
totally.
Why do I come back? Relationships.
Why here?
What matters to me? People. You know what? I don't know, like that. Like, why am I here? I worked in Tijuana. I hate the word ministry because it makes me sound much holier than I really am. But for 7 years before this, and always the same community, always the same community. And part of that's because I believe in, like, not just drive-by shootings, but actually, if I can't do something tangible, right? Like, what changed as a result of me being here? Well, if I built a house, I built a house. But if you're going back again and again, it has to be the same community, because otherwise, why are you there? I don't want to be the gringa coming to paint a church and hand out beans and never see people again.
Yeah.
Right. So something, there's your direction. That said, I mean, I stopped counting houses that I've done in 2017 at 100. So
Over 100.
I stopped
you
counting.
Being a project leader or
a project leader since 2009.
So 100. Just
I stopped counting at 2017, and that was 100.
what? And
But I don't have deep relationships with all those
all the
bazillion families.
Yes.
I mean, but there's 5 that if they needed a kidney, I would give it to them.
Okay.
And then there's that second level if they needed, like, a donation of all the extra skin on my arms, I would
They
give them
need
that.
plasma? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'd give them that. But like, yeah, if we're going by body parts, everybody else gets a smile.
Get something about something from Nancy. Okay.
Yeah, but like some people get toenails. That's it.
So, do you remember like the first time coming to Maneadero? What
Oh,
was
yeah.
it, and what happened?
I actually built a house. Well, the first time I came, it's because my best friend kept saying, "Oh, do you want to go to my church?" No. Hey, my church is gonna. No. Are you my church is no. Do you want to go? No. My church is gonna do a Christmas gift giveaway. I'm like, okay, awesome. I like that. So I come down here with her, and it's in Campo de Esperanza, which was only half built. There's no electricity.
Like when long ago?
2008, 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so no electricity. The building was half built.
I mean, the whole neighborhood, like no electricity,
Nothing. No,
water,
but there, yeah, and
anything.
it was also at that point just cardboard and tarp houses in Colonia, Oaxaca. So we pull up, and it's a mess, and it was the most god awful, horrible, culturally insensitive, embarrassing thing I've ever been part of. And then it started to get dark, and John Rose lost his mind. Now, come on, let's go. And we're throwing gifts out the window. Like, I was so embarrassed. Okay. I was furious all the way to the border. You can keep your pinche Christians. I was furious. I think I even told John something, and I'd never met him before. Oh, because one of the women who spoke Spanish is her first language, but she speaks it very, like second language speakers who sometimes are more direct than they mean to be.
Oh.
And so they made lunches for our group. So we started lining up for lunch, and people saw a line for food. So they lined up. So her manner was to say, no, tú no vas aquí.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, traga mi tierra. So I told John, like, this is embarrassing. So I have run that program ever since. Not on purpose.
The one like
Lo que hago in casa de... Yes.
The other one, yes.
I moved it over there because I could not. But yeah.
You couldn't stand the situation.
It got really large, and it got very political, like... Because
like it does.
Yeah, well, and like we're not going to open gifts till the mayor gets here, and the mayor doesn't show up, and my group from the United States wants to get back, and like it just got very large.
Okay.
And then okay, so then a few months later, same friend goes, "Oh, my church is going to do a house build in Mexico. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Your stupid church? Yeah, okay." But it was over 3 Saturdays, like in June, and then raise the more money, and then
not like we do nowadays.
no, I don't know how that house wasn't a parallelogram.
Yeah, totally.
So I went on the first one. We framed. I took Julian with me. He was 7. I went on the second one, brought Susie with me. She was 11. And I did the third one in August. So it was like June, August, October.
Okay.
And so John said, hey, at our church next weekend, we're going to do a thing about the house build. Do you want to go? And I went, and that was it. And so he did not know that, I spoke Spanish reasonably fluently. He didn't know I ran groups in Tijuana.
Which have been helpful. Like, totally, right? It's
Right.
Spanish.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But he didn't know any of that. And so he said, hey, I kind of like you for the idea of staff. Would you be willing to try it? I mean, yes. So I ran my first group, and it was over Easter weekend, 2008, I think. And it was Juana's uncle.
No way.
Yeah. She's the first person I ever met
one
here.
thing I kind of love about the story about Bound is like sometimes the stories like go full circle.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
and it all starts like 20 years ago,
Right.
15 years ago.
Yes.
And I'm the new guy around
Oh,
here,
right. So you don't know the whole...
I'm here just for the past 2 years. That's
Right.
it. Let me grab my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was Juana's uncle.
Okay.
So Juana was 7. She had just arrived from Oaxaca.
Okay.
She didn't speak Spanish. Her older brother Margarito, though, followed me like a magnet. Like if you had said to me, who in that family is going to end up under your wing? I would have said Margarito.
No, Juan at all.
No, not in the slightest.
Yeah.
Because she didn't talk to me. And then, and then as soon as we built those houses, their uncle kicked him off the land. There were 3 families. They built one house. As soon as that, they kicked him off the land. But I kept seeing Margarito, and I said, baby, I don't know how, but I promise I will build you a house. When we finally did, he says to me, ay, Nancy, I know you said you were going to build me a house. You didn't say it was going to take 5 years.
Oh, okay. How old was Margarito?
Oh, gosh, maybe 10?
10. Okay.
Yeah. But he loved to help, and he loved our groups. And because we were building so much in Colonia, Oaxaca at that time, he he'd just always come find me, and he was my little buddy.
So that was the start, like coming to Maneadero and bringing presents and building houses. But here's the thing: it has been like several years later, and
Yes.
still kind of the same thing. Plus the scholarships, education,
Right.
and stuff like that. But did you see that one coming? Like, have you ever thought of like this is gonna be my life for the next, no, I don't know, 10, 20 years?
I don't like change, and I don't handle change well.
Oh,
So, like the program that I was in Tijuana, the only reason I stopped going is because the couple that were in charge of it retired.
Oh,
I would have done it forever. And so, but here it's even like I found my sweet spot. I have a lot of social anxiety. I have a lot of, I'm very shy. I don't like, well, I don't have that problem down here because here I know who I am. I'm Nancy. That's my job.
Oh, yeah.
It's to be Nancy.
Yes.
Like in a way that I don't ever have to think about. So, so it's easy. I just come down here and I'm Nancy.
and that's it.
And I don't have to like worry about, oh wait, did I nail hair, makeup, and clothing? Am I code switching to the right level of English? What kind of group is this? How am I expected to behave? I know what to do here. I'm just Nancy. I hug
like-
babies and, you know,
You know the environment really well.
yeah, very well. And it's easy. I get to be myself here.
Okay.
You know,
So it all started with building houses, bringing presents, and then you bring all your friends, right?
Yes.
It was like, well, you already mentioned your kiddos, right? But then your husband back then, and I don't know, many of your sons and
yeah,
daughters,
yes, and my
maybe
nieces and nephews and my
some
sisters.
grandmas.
Yeah.
You got plenty
Yes.
of family.
Yes, none of which is related to me, but yes.
Yes. So, how was at the beginning noticing? Because I kind of know the story, but I would love the people to know it from one of the co-founders. Like you told a story like you and John building one house for one family, and then it was like 2 houses a year, and then 5.
If my
10.
first year we did 10 houses, that was a lot. I think I did 3. I personally probably worked on 3 my first year.
3, okay.
And but that's okay because it was so huge to me at the time.
It was a lot of work, right?
But well, we were still cutting wood with a handsaw.
Total.
But also, it was larger to me because I was still finding my footing. And not that every house isn't impactful, because I still cry at every dedication. I know I can't. Yeah.
Yes.
But it, I was learning. I didn't know how to build a house. Yeah, I did a couple house builds in college. Good Catholic school girl. But I didn't know how to build a house. I didn't know the role of the project leader. I didn't know to shepherd my group. I was learning all the things. So 3 houses a year the first year was good.
You were learning by doing, right?
And the thing is, like, okay, right now I can hand you a manual, the project leader manual
Yes.
that I wrote, but those are things that we've developed over 15 years. As I figured things out, as we grew, as the groups that come were less, like they used to be 100% church groups. And now it's, yoga studios and
Business.
companies and friend groups and families. And so, it was very structured. It was structured in a different way, I think, initially. So, yeah, I think we did maybe 3 houses a year, and then 4, and then at some point I realized I was doing about a house a month, and I think on the average I do about 15 groups a year.
So I remember the first time we worked together. You were guiding 25 cars.
That's right. Yes.
So do you remember that?
Yes.
25 cars, 25 vans and cars and stuff. So you went from guiding people you had met before to now getting to know a lot of people from kind of all over the USA.
Yes.
Because in the beginning, it was the San Diego area, I assume, right? And then, going Northern California, maybe
And then
Arizona.
we added a group from New York, from Manhattan, and then a number of Michigan groups, and then and then it's North Dakota. I mean,
Yeah.
that was after the pandemic.
Last
Right.
month, I had a group. They were from Vancouver.
Oh wow, right.
That's
Yeah.
far away.
Yeah. It's right. I think we have I had a group from Ohio last summer, a group from Michigan. Yeah, we're all over the place now.
Yeah,
And then also groups from my hometown. Some
just
of
from
whom
your church.
right, well, and some of whom started because they came on open trips with me. So an open trip is so cool because you can invite whoever you want. And so I invite everybody. Initially, especially because originally only people that really connected with churches get to do things like this. And so I want to say, I don't care who you are, come get some babies off on dirt floors and it's going to change you. And I don't have to be responsible for how it changes you, but it will. Just come. And so for me, I love open trips and I would just invite my friends. And so I'd get combinations of people that I couldn't have made up. Like I couldn't have said, gosh, this would be a great combination. But my different friends would end up on different trips and meet each other. And sometimes I'll look at people on Facebook and go, why do you two know each other? Oh, through me, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And so it then they started making their own groups. Or I'd have a group and that group would have a spin-off. And yeah, so that's how I've seen it grow.
And at the same time, you can tell how other organizations were growing along with you.
Yes.
Because, okay, we get Bajabound building houses around here, but there are at least another 3. And I do remember like one Easter, we were building a house right in front of another ministry.
Yes. Yes.
And it was fun because there were a lot of people building houses around the area. And as you said, the impact. So
I will say though, one of the unique things that I really like about Baja Bound is that you don't have to be a member of a church to build or to receive a house. And I love that because I want everyone I know to come do this. I mean, I love the fact that you can land in this ministry, for lack of a better word, you can land in this ministry, but without having to have a predetermined set of beliefs.
oh, totally. Yes.
If you end up at those beliefs, awesome. But if not, you still get babies off of dirt floors.
See. Yes. Oh, sorry. I stir. Okay. And then, by building houses, and we tell the story like a monologue, but it is because it's a cycle. You build a house for a family, and a couple of years later, the children, they grow up, and they are asking for a house. And you start noticing this pattern like way often. And what I like is people in Bajabound, they notice this and they decided to do something about it.
Yes. Because at the same time that I was noticing that cycle of building for people, saying, wait, I built for your parents, I was also getting to know people on a personal level. So I was hearing people's stories about why they hadn't gone to school. I remember building a house for these 2 sisters, and they were 17 and 21. They were so smart. They had leveled their land by hand, these 2 sisters, and they had built a really good tarp house. I mean, and they were so clearly smart. And so I said, like, what's your story? Well, the older sister moved up here, and then the younger sister got pregnant when she was like 16. And the baby daddy wanted her to have an abortion. And her sister said, no, you come to me. We'll figure it out. I'll help you raise this baby. It was just so smart, though. And I said to the older one, how much school do you have? And she said, secundaria, middle school. And I said, why did you leave school? And she said, because every time I turned around, they wanted, 50 pesos for this and 50 pesos for that. And I was always the kid without the 50 pesos. And I got tired of being embarrassed, and I left. And I thought, wow, for not having 50 pesos, she left school. And
then you do the math in
Right.
dollars, and you're like, that's like
right,
$3.
exactly. And so I have kids in my class in the United States that don't ever have the $5. But as a teacher, I float them the $5. I just, don't worry about it, I'll deal with it, But, and I know that happens here too, obviously. But when the majority of your class doesn't have the $5, it's harder. So as I got to know people and hear their stories and talk to a family where nobody's ever gone beyond fifth grade, when I went to an elementary school graduation and the principal of a sixth grade graduation said to the graduating class, I really hope that most of you have the opportunity to continue studying. I was struck. It never occurred to me that I wouldn't go to
elementary.
Elementary.
Like, we're not talking about high school. Middle school.
No, it never occurred to me not to go to seventh grade. Not for 1 minute did I think, I wonder if I'll be able to go to middle school.
Or seen as an achievement.
Right.
Right.
You graduate from sixth grade because, in fact, we didn't even graduate. You just finish it. It's what you're supposed to do.
To me, it was just another day at school, and
Right.
when you realize that people struggle, and my parents struggle, so I just didn't notice, or I was too too young to notice.
Right. Yep. And as parents, we will very often go without the things that we want or need to make sure that our kiddos have them. So there is, if your mom made a lot of quiet sacrifices along the way, probably,
Totally.
And so as I got to know more people and hear their stories on a friend level, not just like, okay, this is Fulana, she's getting a house. But like, as I developed friendships and spend time in people's homes, I thought, wow, yeah, this has to change. And that sort of, that and is sort of the genesis of Baja Ed, along with meeting, of course, Carmona. But
which was like the spark that started everything.
yeah, so I met her in the United States. She had come up to our church, and I think she was giving a talk. She was living in the U.S. at the time, and she came to our church, and John introduced me to her, and she and I started talking, and I thought, wow, this kid who checked herself into an orphanage so she could keep studying, like, that's amazing, but also she's not the only kid in the world that's that amazing. And that's where I thought, how do we replicate this? How do we continue this? How do we,
Yeah, because you can notice, like, it's not a matter of intellectual.
Right.
It's not an intellectual thing. It's a matter of resources. That's it. Sometimes that's just it. If they can make it all the way to college or even further, but here's the thing: they don't have the money to do it. And sometimes even if they have the money, they don't have the support. And in a more general way.
They get tired of swimming against the current all the time. Exactly.
So it was with Carla, with another group of people. In the beginning, I remember it was like 5 students from college,
and they were handpicked, to be fair, and we knew that they were going to be successful. There was not a doubt that they were going to be successful, honestly.
And they all made it, right?
Yes.
All of them
they all graduated from college, yep.
Yes. So they were like the first generation, like 5?
Yes. Well, it was Carla and 4. I
do remember Miguel. Juan.
No, well before that. Well before that. It was Carolina La Pastora.
Yes,
and then
Carolina,
it was Carolina, Yesenia, Brenda. Out of that first group, there was a special ed teacher, a psychologist, a communications major, which is Carolina, and then I don't remember the 4th one, and then Panchito, who started 3 different careers. But he's a successful coffee shop owner. No, he did not.
Okay.
We'll edit that
it
part.
happened.
Right. He owns 2 coffee shops at the moment, so he figured his path out, So
that's part of the thing. Like, I know we try to make people to believe education is all about attending school, which is great, and you shouldn't miss it. But there's another kind of education you could get that is not the system will not offer it to you.
Right, not in the slightest. Yes.
No. So if this guy is able to figure it out a way in a different path and still being a successful person, that's okay.
100%. And I know teachers are not supposed to say this, but college is not for everybody.
Yeah.
And honestly, college, in many cases, my own included, is super wasted on young people. If at 18, I was 17 when I graduated from high school. If at 17 I had wanted to get married, everybody would say, no, you're too young. You don't know what you're doing yet. If I had wanted to get a tattoo, people would have said, don't, you're too young. You don't know. But people want us to pick our career when we're 15.
Oh, yeah,
The thing that we're going to do for the next
you
50
can do
years.
it at 16, don't worry.
And it's like, you don't know at 15 who you're going to be at 18, much less who you're going to be at 65. I didn't know I was going to be a teacher until I walked in the classroom. And so the school system, right, if you can figure out a way to be successful, props to you.
And that's the thing I love about what Baha Ed is now. Because, yes, we try to encourage students to stay in school, most of them. But we also have workshops, community
Right.
services. We have different options for people trying to make their way in
Right.
their own path. So, what are your thoughts about it?
Oh, well, one of the things I love the most about the staff at Baha Ed is that nobody has had a traditional educational path.
Oh, tell me about it.
So, we have some teen moms. We have the director who got her college degree at age 39, even though she had been a teacher and a principal before that. We have people who dropped out and came back, people who could have gone to college but they didn't or couldn't, and so everybody on our staff understands what it is like to struggle. Everybody on our staff understands what it is like to not just have your dreams placed in your hand, but to grab at them and sometimes not be able to reach them anyway. And that is what makes us successful in the community. Because we're very compassionate, but we're also, we don't let our families have pobrecito syndrome. We don't put everything in their hands. And I think because everyone on staff has worked their way, crawled their way, scratched and clawed their way out of a hole to some degree or another, we know that our families can too. So while our staff, I love that our staff is super compassionate, but also they're not just putting everything easily in people's hands. So we're not doing damage by handing things out too easily. So that's a big thing for me.
And for now, it's growing up like massive way.
Yes.
And even though it's a lot of work, we do understand, like, we are having an impact in the community, and still it's not enough.
I had to learn really early, though, as a teacher, and really early in any kind of community service work, you cannot look at it that way. Because, okay, so I teach elementary school in a high poverty area. Of my 36 years of teaching, 32 of them I have chosen difficult areas on purpose. That's the community that I feel the best in. I taught at a private school my first 4 years of teaching, and then I realized they did not need.
No, I don't fit here.
They didn't know. When I pulled up in my 1974 Ford Pinto to open their doors of their BMWs and Jaguars, I was like, yeah, this might not be the place for me. I was volunteering in a school in a high poverty neighborhood at the same time, and I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. But I look at my students, right? And I have students with deported parents. I have students with parents in prison. I have students in foster care. I have students with horrendous situations. I have homeless students. And I have to tell them sometimes, here's the deal, sweetheart. I can't fix those things. I can't get your dad out of jail. I can't make your mom stop drinking. I can't put you in a house. But I can give you the best 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock possible. And that I promise you. The piece I have control over, I'll make it magic for you. That I promise you. And then I have to let go. And that doesn't mean, please don't think I don't go home and agonize over some students, right? I just attended the wedding of this baby girl. Oh, she's like 34. She was my 6th grader. And she was a foster child, and I wanted to adopt her. And I actually went through the paperwork to adopt her. And they moved her placement, and I lost track of her. Well, doggone if she didn't find me at age 29 or something and say, I don't know if you remember me. I said, baby, I never stopped looking for you. I have the binder that you left in my classroom when you got pulled to another foster
You got
placement.
the paperwork.
I had the binder from her classroom of her poems, her pictures, poems she wrote, the certificates she'd earned, and I just held it all those years.
Okay.
Because I knew sometime
Eventually
she'd come back. And so I just went to her wedding a couple weeks ago. And she had no blood relatives there, but she had me, and she had her 12th grade teacher there.
And that was full circle.
Yeah, exactly. So my point is, I have learned, because I have corazón de pollito. I have a really soft heart, and I will lose sleep over everybody all the time if I didn't learn to put some emotional boundaries. So yes, I'm never going to run out of poor people. I'm never going to be able to build enough houses. Somebody said to me like 10 years ago, "Oh, in 20 years, Baja Bound will be obsolete." And yeah, no.
Totally not.
And I know I can't, like at Christmas, I can't ever bring enough toys for everybody. But I've had to learn to just be okay with that and drive in my own lane. Because so when I was in college and I discovered
When you were young.
yeah, when I was in
dreams,
yeah, exactly. No, I discovered
you wanted
poverty
to
in
change the world.
I did. I discovered poverty and injustice. I was a real pain in the butt about it. But it was also very stressful because I thought, well, shoot, I can't eat tuna because they're killing dolphins, and I can't eat anything that's owned by Nestle because they go into communities that don't have water and buy up all the water rights. They go give moms baby formula, so they stop nursing, and then the moms can't sustain that. And let's see, I can't wear clothes because everything's made by children in Haiti who work for 50 cents a week. And, and I thought, oh my gosh, to be an ethical person, I'm going to have to starve and go naked. Like, it was very stressful.
Yeah.
And so I really had to stop and think, what are my lanes? What can I do? Because if I think about all the things, I will have a meltdown.
No.
It's exhausting,
go
you know?
there.
Right, I can't. And so, that's why I don't watch TV. When I was a little kid, my parents...
That's why you don't watch Fox News.
well, no, there are other reasons I don't watch Fox News.
Yeah, avoid it at all costs.
Yes, exactly. No, but my first political memory was the Vietnam War.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember watching the fall of Saigon.
How old were you? Like 10?
8, 9, yeah. And I remember my parents had the TV in their room, and they kicked me out because I couldn't stop crying watching the helicopter take off of the U.S. Embassy with people trying to hang on. And but what about those people? Well, what's going to happen to them? And I remember in the 5th grade, I was writing a novel about Vietnamese orphans because it was so heavy on my heart, right?
Yeah.
And so I know if I do not find my lanes and drive in them, and at this point in my life, my lanes are get babies off of dirt floors, get kids into classrooms, and then write about it in such a way that I can make other people see it.
Can we talk a little bit about you being a writer?
Sure.
Why not?
A really not famous writer, yeah.
Since I can see your posts, and that's certainly one thing you do very often, like writing about what you do here in the community, and people replying to you, people getting interest in the stories, in the people you're telling about, and they actually get involved in the community to help. So it's actually a way to tell the story of the people around here, and I can relate to that because I'm basically doing the same for you.
Right, exactly. Yes, I mean, you have to tell the story in such a way that people are moved by it. So, one of my favorite mediums to write in is the Facebook essay. So, okay, I know you'll be very surprised to find out that I can be very argumentative. And so a couple years ago, maybe 12 years ago.
So for you, 10 years ago is like a couple of years ago.
Right, exactly.
So
a minute
like
ago. Half my life. Yeah, exactly. So everybody from my high school graduating class, we all got on Facebook at about the same time. And it was amazing. It was like a class reunion, and we all had kids about the same age, and we had similar or different life experiences, and it was really fun until it wasn't, because we would get into arguing politics. And the political landscape, as you know, in the U.S. changed dramatically somewhere around 2016. But some of my Facebook friends were stay-at-home moms, and so they could argue all day, and they could look up the facts, and they had time to craft their arguments. And I would end up finding myself being angry in real time about virtual interactions. And I wasn't changing anybody's mind. Well, around the same time, I gave up Facebook for Lent, but I totally cheated because I opened a Twitter account. And so I really Twitter made me a better writer because at that time it was 140 characters. And I refused, because I'm a purist, to use the number 4 to write the word for. I won't use you to write. I have to spell everything out and punctuate. And so I had to figure out how to say what I
Hard.
wanted to say in 140 characters. And then it went up to 280. Well, at that time, I got a message. Somebody said, "Can I message you?" It was a guy. And I was like, yes. He said, "No, it's not weird." So he messaged me. He said, "I'm the editor of a local paper. I really like the way you write. I like it's very succinct." And I'm like, "It's Twitter. Of course it's succinct. I have 140 characters to work with." But he said, "I like your topics. Would you be interested in writing a column for us?" Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, I think I was 48 years old, and that was the first time I think I'd been paid as a writer, other than like a little prize here or there. And so I started writing this column every 2 weeks, thanks to Twitter. And what I realized is if I tell stories and trust the reader to draw their own conclusions, it's much more effective than arguing about why you're dumb and I'm right. I mean, you can guess I have that in my personality, but I've really thought, I'm just going to tell you the story, and I will trust you to do or not do. What, in the same way, like, you know how I said I really like Baja Bound because you don't have to be a person of faith to participate? I can bring you to the experience,
But
and then I'm going to trust you.
like this quick parenthesis, like some people might not have a faith, but I have seen a lot of baptisms after the buildings. People
Exactly.
wanted to be baptized because they were so moved by the environment.
Yes.
Guys, I want to have the same you have.
I want what you have, yeah. And so it's the same thing in writing, which is if I lay out the story correctly, you will come to the conclusion that I would eventually like you to have. And so my column was fun. It was called The View from Down Here. And down here could be, I mean, I live at...
Anywhere.
Well, I live at the very border of the United States, the southernmost border. I teach elementary school, so down there. I teach in a lower socioeconomic community, so down there. At that time, I was the mother of younger kids, so down there. And also, I'm not very tall, so down here also. So it's called The View from Down Here. And I would just tell stories. I interviewed people, and, you know, there's sort of a theory. If you just know one fill in the blank, one Muslim, one undocumented immigrant, one gay person, one whatever it is, right? If you just know one, that humanizes the issue for you. And so I tried in my writing to say, look, here's a person, here's their story. Do with it what you will. And I think when I love to write on Facebook, the Facebook essays, kind of doing the same thing where I have in mind, like sometimes I'll just get on a long discussion. I'll just write out a long thing, and if you don't want to read it, don't read it. And if you want to read it, awesome. And it's actually one of my favorite mediums because people do answer, and they're like, okay, tell me more. Sometimes it's about building houses, but sometimes it's about a person's life. I do a lot more of those off of Facebook now that everybody in Maneadero has Facebook. Because sometimes I write about people down here. And so I like to use Threads as sort of a place to put those stories out. And then if they stick, I turn them into stories. So a lot of what I write is really based down here. I recently did a short story that talked about how my very best and my very worst instincts ended up together on the surface of a blouse. Because my mother-in-law, as you know, passed away a year ago, and I was a good daughter-in-law. I really was. But the reason I was a good daughter-in-law is because I'm a little bit petty. And, you know, I'm my husband's second wife, and his late wife was amazing. She was brilliant, talented, great personality. Everybody loved her, me included. She could not get along with her mother-in-law. So I was like, okay, that I can do. I'm such a good daughter-in-law.
That's the bar.
Right, but it was a little bit petty and a little bit competitive initially. But over time, I really came to love her, and I was a good daughter-in-law all the way through the end of her life. Now, at the same time, there was a woman in the community who I met who I was stunned by because she said, I love to read. And I said, really, what's your favorite book? And she said, The Alchemist, El Alquimista. But I'm bummed because the copy I borrowed didn't have the last 2 pages, and I'll never know how it ends. Well, gosh, did I get on Amazon and find El Alquimista, and I brought it to her. And we started talking about books. And friends of mine would send her books. well, going through, and so she became a person. She said, you're my first friend. And so, going through my mother-in-law's things, I found a cookie tin, which it means it has sewing things in it,
sí.
right?
Mexican people know that. Ese recipiente, las galletas con un montón de hilo adentro, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, right. If you open the butter dish, it has salsa in it.
Sí.
The yogurt container also, right?
It has beans.
Exactly.
Right.
So the
anything but what
yes.
it's
So the
supposed to
cookie
have.
tin, it was full of embroidery thread, and this particular woman makes bracelets, and she braids tourists' hair on the beach, and I thought I'll take it to her, and so I said, here, I found this among my mother-in-law's things, and I thought of you. Well, she made me a handmade blouse and embroidered it with that thread. So my pettiest instincts and my best instincts of befriending her coincided on this blouse. So I did it as a story on Threads, not on Facebook, because I don't really want my, I don't want to show my petty side on Facebook, and
So public.
well, yeah, exactly. It's a bad look. So
I guess the trends is wider, or I don't know how it works with you, because some people is Facebook is just their friends and that's it. But threads, it's like kind of public.
yes. So well, okay. It depends on what you do with Facebook. I actually have my Facebook divided into groups of people. Like there's anybody I've ever met in
I've seen a lot of
Ensenada
people doing the same.
has
thing, so.
is under Baja Bound, but they could be Baja Bound, Baja Ed, or I don't know, anybody here. I have people from, like, I have them all separated, because sometimes I might want to write a post about a student related thing, and I don't want every parent of a student I've ever taught to see it. So, like, visible to everyone but San Isidro. But Threads, I know very few people that are people I know in real life that are on Threads. So I can get a lot of feedback of people who don't automatically like me.
Strangers.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If I show you my work and you like it, we're already friends, and so you might be tempted. You tend to like it,
I will
but
be biased.
right, exactly. And whereas a stranger will be like, "Girl, I don't know why you wrote this."
Yeah, that's a mess.
So I'll just throw things out, and if they get a lot of reactions, I think, okay, I can turn this into a story. And so it's like the Facebook essay, but more anonymous. Because I write about a lot of people I know.
Yeah. Talking about stories. So you bought us a book.
Yes.
The book is called Harvesting Dreams,
Yes.
Cosechando Sueños. And I do remember that post. I remember the story. I just didn't know there was a book. And you got us a book. We read it. And I do remember talking with my coworkers, like, and we were like, "Bro, it's the same story over and over again,
Right.
not only in the United States, not only here, all over the world." And you could relate to that, but it just because it is like kind of similar to mine, it doesn't mean it's unique, and it has
Right.
their very own thing. And
No, because she was on the border, there are a lot of similarities. Like her grandparents spoke Mixteco. She lived in Tijuana for a while in a house that turned into a lake when it rained.
but it kind of
But then she was also in the
help you
US.
get the picture
Right.
around the area.
Yes.
Even though having a border is kind of the same thing.
Yes. And interestingly enough, she actually attended the middle school that I taught at while I was teaching there. I didn't know her, but when I
We're
messaged
talking
her.
about Eric Alfaro.
Yeah. So I messaged her and I said, okay, you were in 6th grade when I was a 6th grade teacher. She said, yeah, I didn't speak English. I said, okay, so was your teacher Fulano Mangano Sultano? And she told me,
She was
And-
like, yeah.
yes, yeah. And I said, well, I was over in this trailer. Your classroom was 2 doors down. So our paths never crossed at school.
See, full circle.
Exactly.
Again.
And so, but when I read that, like, she went to San Isidro Middle School? No way. So, but she also was a teen mom. She also fell into a situation of domestic violence. She also really had to scratch and claw and climb her way out. And there's so many, when I read that book, I thought, oh my gosh, like, some people on our staff need to read this because they've lived it, and I need them to see that they can keep going. And it doesn't matter if they didn't do it at 18, they can do it at 40. It doesn't matter. And other people on our staff need to read it just because similar stories take place in so many of our families. And yeah,
Maybe if it wasn't me, maybe it was my sister, maybe my
Right.
mom, or the neighbor,
Right.
my friend. You never know. And what a lie. or what I love about the book is it helps people realize like your story matters.
Yes.
That's one thing, and um, there are a lot of incredible stories around here, and that's why I like doing this because I get the chance to sit someone in front of me and tell me about you. And to me, it's not about like, oh, do you do great things or not? No, no. It's let's
Right.
find out.
It's you're interesting. Who
Yeah,
are you?
let's
Yes.
find out because you never know. And unless you get them the chance to tell their own story, sometimes they are silence, right? So not only by the environment, sometimes by them, right?
Oh yeah. Nobody wants to air all their trauma and drama.
So you need to sometimes push people a little bit to encourage them to, hey, your story is amazing. How about writing it down? And that's kind of my job right now at Bahat, like interviewing people, and it's hard to them sometimes. Because
Right.
you can see like
How anxious that makes them.
see,
Right.
yes. So a simple question like, how much do you earn? And then, well, how can I explain it? Listen, I have two jobs, and then it's a
Right.
whole situation.
Right.
So,
But I go back to that's what makes you so effective at that job. Because, you're not interviewing them from the comfort of your mansion where you're driving your Mercedes Benz around. So there's not too much that they're going to say that you don't know yourself.
yes, but what the point I'm trying to make is like, yes, we have incredible stories around here, and it's a pleasure to have someone able to tell them. And how do you see yourself like doing this? Like, what's in your mind when you think like, yes, I'm about to write down this story, but it's not my story.
I do struggle with that for two reasons. Well, first of all, my brain writes stories all the time. It's very tiring. Like anything that happens, I'm thinking, how am I going to write this? How am I going to write this?
Like musicians trying to make a song about
I
everything.
think so, yeah. And so I'm always thinking, how am I going to write this? But I worry for two reasons. For example, I just wrote a story that I've actually been spinning in my brain since December. One of the young ladies on our staff has an amazing story. I could write it, but it's her story to write.
Yeah.
It's not mine. So, I wrote a teeny tiny snapshot for her as a gift of this day, but everything that I saw in her face that came before it. Like, I wrote a very tiny story as a gift. Here's a snapshot of one day when you looked so beautiful because XYZ had been erased from your face at that moment of peace. It was just a gift, just because. But I was spinning it. I've been working on it in my brain since December. Here are the reasons I struggle. As an American, I want to be very careful. In the United States, there like a lot of publishers are really looking at the own voices concept, which is
Yes.
I cannot write as if I have lived this life. But I also can't not tell the stories. So, for example, the majority of what I write actually is fiction, but it's fiction based on something that happens. So let's say I build a house for a family. My favorite story, which actually just got published, it's my favorite story I've ever written.
No bragging at all.
Not bragging at all, no.
No show off.
No, it's a little story, but it's the favorite thing.
Actually,
Yeah.
This is
It was
the name of the
amazing,
story.
okay, yeah.
Here's the link.
Here's the family. No, it is honestly my favorite story I've ever written. Like when I read it, I get chills, and then I'm like, wait, never mind, you wrote that. Don't get all exaggerated. But it takes place over the course of a build. But during that build, each member of the family told me part of their story.
Oh.
And so when I wrote it from all their viewpoints, and I wrote it as they had told me. And then I changed some names, and then I blurred some details. Is it my story to tell? Am I speaking out of turn? I worry about that a lot, honestly.
See.
Because They didn't give me permission to write their story either. So I do blur, I mix, I make things fuzzy. If you know me very well and you know this area very well, you might go, oh, wait, that little piece of that story, that's this girl.
Yeah.
Oh, but this piece, that's that guy. But I also, I do, I don't know if you were familiar, a couple of years ago in the United States, there was a huge controversy over this book called American Dirt. And it is a woman who wrote a story about
What house?
fleeing.
No.
No, you got to read this. It was about a family fleeing cartel violence from Mexico City and coming to the border. But of course, the protagonist was a bookstore owner, a stationery store owner, somebody finito, somebody like a little upper class, not the chusma like us,
Yes.
So that was number one. And so her husband was killed by the cartel and she fled. But it was really, the author was white American, okay? She said, well, maybe she did research by living in Mexico. She was in Mexico City for 3 weeks. And then it was really obvious that she had lifted parts of it, not word for word plagiarism, but the concepts from the book Enrique's Journey and the book By the Lake of Sleeping Children. And so she was describing a Tijuana border crossing that would have taken place in the 90s. And I know because, well, that's when I hung out. I was in Tijuana.
Times.
Well, those were the times that I was in Tijuana, those years. So, and she said, well, I mean, my husband was illegal. He's Irish. He overstayed his visa. It is not the same thing. And so people kind of came down hard on her for writing in a voice that's not her own, that she doesn't have a right to. And so I do worry about that because in most of what I write, my protagonist is a me type person, an outsider.
Okay.
But not all of it. But I worry about that. Like, do I have the right to tell people's stories? And so, Facebook or Threads gives me a place to tell the real story for real and see what happens with it. And then later I can decide, what do I blur? What do I fictionalize? I feel an obligation to tell people's stories because I need people to see. How is it possible that in 2025 there are still people sleeping on dirt floors with houses without electricity? That's unthinkable 90 miles from here where I live.
Not so far away.
Not so far away. I got here in 2 hours. It's unthinkable. And yet, it is a thing. And so when I say get babies off of dirt floors, I have to show those dirt floors. And I have to be able to tell the story of them in words that matter. So as a human who observes, I have an obligation to tell stories. But also, as me, I can't not. But I really do actually struggle significantly with, are those my stories? Are they my stories to tell? And
am I doing it the right way?
am I respectful? Am I still, like, everything I write about comes from truth. It's not an exact dictation of an exact person's life, but everything I write about comes from truth. They're stories that have been told to me. Do I have a right to tell them? Generally, when I write about people, I will say to them at some point, hey, I wrote this thing. Do I have your permission to put it out there for the world? I wrote a nonfiction piece recently about my daughter and her struggles with OCD.
Oh, yes. I do remember that one.
And I that was also just published. But I asked her, can I submit this for publication? And she said, absolutely. If it helps somebody, go for it. But if she'd said no, I would have respected that. But even that, I wrote that because one of my best friends, her daughter was about 14 and she was kind of going sideways and she was struggling. And my love language is words, and I didn't know a way to say to her, it's going to be fine. So
sometimes you need to tell a story.
Right, and she knew that was for her. And so that's why I told it to say, look, this is where we've been and this is where we are now. It's going to be okay. And it is, Fast forward a few years, her daughter's fine. But, so it helped to tell the story. Here, why do I tell the stories? Because people need to know. First of all, because I would like them to contribute. I'd like them to come down here. I'd like them to be here. Minimally, though, I would like, given the political climate in the United States right now, I would like people to understand that my friends who I love, the people I call my children and my grandchildren down here, are just people. They're people who get up and work hard and raise their kids and try to have a good life.
Yeah, beyond nationalities and, yeah, and concepts and races and everything, like we're still human.
Right. And in the same way that I bristle at stereotypes against Americans, when I had my first Mexican friend that I spoke enough Spanish to have like a real friendship, she goes, "Can I ask you 3 questions?" Absolutely. I think I was 24, 25. I knew everything, fresh as lettuce. Anyway, she said, "Why don't American women comb their hair?" Meaning, why don't we have it pulled back? Why don't we have hairbands or ponytails? Why are we just getting nudas with our hair
like
loose?
this. Not
Right,
like me.
nothing, exactly. You have your hair combed. You're a good man. And so that was question number 1. I don't have my hair up because it gives me a headache. Question number 2, why don't Americans wash their tennis shoes? And my thought bubble said, well, duh, because we buy new ones. But I'll tell you what, ever since then, I've washed my tennis shoes, my children's tennis shoes, and
You better do.
exactly, because we're not going out in the world with our cruddy tennis shoes. And then the third one, she said, is it true that all American women are easy? And I was so surprised by that that's a whole thought that people have. Enough that she asked me about it. I was like, not all of us. No. Define easy. No.
Yes.
But, and so I also hear the ugly stereotypes that people have about Mexicans.
The other way around.
And unfortunately, I also will read sometimes people who write, I love the Mexican people when they're down here. And, the smart aleck part of me wants to say, really? Do you love Chapo Guzman? Do you love the guy whose job it is to dissolve bodies in barrels of acid? I bet you don't.
You love el pozolero.
Exactly. But also, why do you stop loving them if they're on the other side of the border? And so the more I can say, hey, this is my friend. See this person I'm writing about? That's my friend. Isn't she lovely? This is my friend. Isn't he amazing? Look at, these are people, and this is their lives. And also sort of for me, the idea of the lottery, right? Like, I didn't win. I won the lottery of being born in the United States to a family that values education. I didn't win the lottery of being tall. I didn't win the lottery of being rich. Didn't win the lottery of being athletic. But I won that particular lottery. I didn't do anything to deserve to be born in the U.S. And I want people to also walk away with, hey, that's the lottery, bro. Somebody won the lottery of being born in Maneadero. Somebody else won the lottery of being born here. It's not but it's not deserved. So it stops people in the U.S. from getting like, oh, well, I'm American. Well, yeah, that's the lottery you won. Congratulations.
Okay, Nancy, if I were to ask you about what Maneadero means to you, what would you say?
Gosh, I mean,
Because you come really often. But you have, as you said, a lot of people you love here. And you seem like the name of the organization. You seem like Baja Bound. Totally.
It is my home. Like,
Bound.
I do. I feel at home here in a way. I mean, number one, like, yes, if I'm not here on a build or a Baja Ed thing, I'm here because of somebody's baby shower, somebody's quinceañera, somebody's whatever.
Graduation.
Exactly. And I'm so blessed that I have some adopted kids here and some grandbabies, and the best, most perfect grandbabies in the world, by the way.
A lot of godsons.
Yeah, exactly. I'm madrina, godmother to a lot of people, and so those relationships matter to me deeply, and in a weird way, they are more authentic because, I mean, okay, so I teach 5th grade. I'm not shy in my classroom, obviously, because I'm the teacher.
Yeah.
But
You're the adult in the room.
theoretically, yes. But I am fairly shy around grown-ups. I don't love social situations. The longest 5 minutes of my life ever is the 5 minutes from my car to somebody's front door.
Okay.
Every time I get in the car to go to an event, I'm like, no, wait, I hate people. I don't want to do this. And my husband goes, I know, baby, and just leads me to the car anyway. But here it is.
Go.
It's maybe because half the time nobody's ever seen me clean and with my hair combed here. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm usually working, right? I'm dusty. I'm got paint on my hands. I got,
Yeah. Teaching somebody else to read.
in the dust of my car or whatever it is. And so, like, I really am able to be my most authentic self in the sense that any of the social niceties or pretenses I could have put up, I didn't start with down here. And so I'm not going to build them now. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to try to look for, like, I'm not going to impress anybody at this point. All I have to offer here is my personality. That's all I got. Take it or leave it. So, that's part of it. And then part of it is, I don't know if you've heard that quote, where the world's great hunger meets your great joy, there your calling lies. And so there's nothing sacrificial about what I do. It's selfish. I do it because I love it. It's my great joy, you know? And I really do, like, here it's so easy to know, who am I supposed to be? I'm Nancy, you know? Or I'm Nancy.
Yes. Yeah, Nancy.
Nancy. Nana. Right, exactly. Ama. So, comadre, it just, I don't know, those are relationships where people treasure me and I treasure them. And so some of it is that. Some of coming down here is just, you know, it's fun to drive through the bumpy roads and feel like I'm tougher than I am. It's fun to build houses. I've learned all the things. That's so much fun for me that I know I'm not useless in a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Maneadero, what does it mean to me? You know, I kind of hate going to Mayorista if I'm short on time. Because I don't have time to say hi to everybody I know. No, because I don't have time to say hi to everybody I know.
That's
you know?
why I don't go.
Yeah. And so,
people keep telling me, like, you're famous here. Lady, we go to some place here and there's a lot of people greeting you. And I'm like, I don't exist. Yes.
No, I go to the bufadora and they're like, oh, Baja Bound, are you friends with Alvarado? And I'm like, absolutely. Yes, I am. I love this. Oh, you work for his organization.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I do.
Yes.
No, he works for... No, but it's... I was at Cali Max recently, and, you know, I played with a card, and she said, signature, and I was like, awesome. So when I'm ever famous, you'll have my signature.
Yes.
She goes, honey, you're already famous.
You're already famous, yes.
And I was like, no. And that's not, of course, my goal, but it's so nice to be in a place where if I didn't have a place to spend the night tonight, I could call 10 people and be like, can I spend the night at your house?
And they'll say yes.
Absolutely.
Let me kick my husband out.
Right, exactly. I mean, and so it feels like family. My family of origin, I did not grow up with an extended family of origin. So I'm all about chosen family, right? My definition of family is very flexible. I've raised foster sons, and one of their daughters comes down here with me on events, and, you know, so Nancy's my grandma. Of course, she also does that because she knows if she'll get better drinks and better service.
Totally.
Oh, I'm here with Nancy. She's my grandma. Okay. But she's down here now doing the work that I was doing when I took her dad and her uncle in, you know. But, so my extended family, right? How many kids do I have? Well, I have Susie and Julian, to whom I gave birth. I have my bonus daughter.
Not Julian.
Right, exactly. Not you, not you, Givaldo, Juli. And then I have, you know, my bonus daughter who I just adopted, my husband's daughter. And then I have my daughters here and grandchildren and babies that call me Nana. And, like, I have a great family. It's one of my favorite family photos ever because I'm not actually related to anybody in it. You know, and so it's like coming home here. Now, I'm going to be honest. I do recognize that to some extent there's a balance of power issue. Often when I'm coming, I have stuff to give you. I have stuff to give away.
Oh.
But I also know, you know, if I've been part of, let's say, 300 house builds. Obviously, I don't have a deep emotional connection to all 300.
With every single family.
No, but there's people that I've sat in the hospital and prayed and cried with while they're waiting for their daughter to get out of surgery. There's people who, you know, I've been there in their hardest moments, and people who have been there in mine, you know. as someone who's actually, I mean, I talk a lot, but I'm very private about my life. But the people who have been in my moments also, and so it that has transcended beyond just, oh, what does Nancy have in the back of her car? You know, I mean, last year I was down here working when my mother-in-law passed away, and I was running a really big group, and I put on the group text, hey, you guys, I need to leave today. You know, my mother-in-law passed, and I couldn't get out of the Baja Bound house because all the cooks wanted to hug me, which I didn't want because I was going to cry. But you know what I mean? It was just like people coming alongside you in a way that, and so it is. It's like here I feel, I understand that I came in with an imbalance of power. But I hope that the position that I have, I've also earned with my personality, if that makes sense. I don't want to be Santa Claus. I want to be everybody's sister and mom, and you know.
Yes. One question I always ask to my guests is, if you have a message to share to the world, to your family, to anybody listening to you, watching you, what would you say?
Well, if the message is to the people here of Maneadero, es que yo les quiero mucho. Y gracias por aceptarme. Like, easy. That's it. Thank you for making a home here for me. The world at large, oh my gosh. It's obviously my key ones are, please help me get babies off of dirt floors. Because that's not an exaggeration. You know that. You've seen the houses where the babies are literally sleeping on cardboard on the dirt. Help me get kids out of the fields and into classrooms. But also just come see. Challenge your perceptions. Open your world. I mean, I've been hanging out in Maneadero for 15 years. And I still learn things that I had absolutely no idea. That I'm shocked by. At least once a month, I learn something I had no idea. That I'm like, so I guess I would say, be open-minded. If you don't end up in Maneadero, that's cool too. But wherever you go, be open-minded. See the world. See outside of your box. See that we're all people. And that a lot of us have the exact same struggles no matter where we're from. And the same triumphs and the same joys. But also mostly just, please come down and build a house and help get a baby off a dirt floor. Please help me fund a scholarship. Please read the stories I write about people and love them like I do.
Okay, Nancy. If people want to contact you in any way, would you share your social media? I don't know.
Yes, I have all the social medias. Yes, I have Facebook. I have Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn.
TikTok.
I have TikTok. Yes, I do. I don't have Snapchat, and I'm trying to. I had Twitter, and I have a Twitter. I'm trying really hard to walk away from X, but I do in fact have a Twitter also, and more active on it than I should be. So yes, all my social medias.
Nancy Alvarado.
Nancy Alvarado. Yep.
Nancy Alvarado.
There's a lot of Nancy Alvarados out there. One of them writes really bad poetry. That one is not me.
Okay.
There's the one that writes bad poetry. That one is not me.
Yeah. Check all your Nancy Alvarados, please. So Nancy, it was great having you.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
Thank you for everything. I guess it was worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
Let's see if we ever have the chance to have a second episode, a second part. But for all matters, thank you for being here. I know I cannot speak on behalf of the town, but I can say, at least to me, it means a lot what people like you do for my community, for my people. Sometimes for my family, sometimes for my friends, and even if it is for strangers, I still appreciate it because we need it. So there is no way to explain it better. We need it.
But also, how full circle is it that I'm building a house and I say, how did you find out about this? Oh, Yugivaldo told me to go fill out the paperwork. I'm his friend, and I'm like, that's awesome.
If you start getting like a lot of people asking for houses, please don't blame me. But
I don't blame you. I thank you.
I hope this organization and many more come to this place, to this town, to build more houses, but also to build the schools. to build a brighter future for our community.
Yes, yes.
There's
And
a lot we can do together.
absolutely. And they don't have to be giant things. If you don't have $10,000 to build a house, you have 25 for a backpack.
That'll do it.
And we'll take those too.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank
Nancy.
you. No,
for
thank you
being
very
here.
much.
For people listening and watching, and this was El Podcast Maneaco with Nancy Alvarado. Thank you, Nancy.
Un
I guess
placer.
see you next week with another episode. See you later.